So after, I don't know, a million people sending in mails demanding that we bring Mina back for a second episode with Mina, she is joining us again today. Mina, thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So I want to make sure the viewers and audience members know who you are. So quick bio here out of the gate, and then we're going to launch into the theme and topic of today, which is a really exciting one. If you can't tell, based on the timbre and the volume of my voice here, but this is what we've never done on the ultimate buyer's guide to body contouring technology. So listeners, viewers, if you're watching this on YouTube, there are 13 systems we're going to cover today. Coolsculpting, Emsculpt, Sculpture, TrueSculpt, Venus Freeze, Venus Legacy, BTL, Vanquish, Elixis, Accent Prime, Eon, which is a very exciting product, red light therapy, and the, oh, is it our favorite, Mina? Cavitation Devices from China?
Well, let's see. I have lots to say about that.
let's see. We'll see. So we're going to cover this in a very specific, dare I say, near scientific method of, we'll cover the product high level first, then we're going to get into the science, and then we're going to speak to the consumer reviews. Then lastly, a Mina yay nay on the device. Would she consider adding to her practice? So quick note on Mina, so you all know, and more importantly, why you should listen. If I were you and I was a listener or a viewer of this particular video, I would be thinking, who's Mina? Why should I care to listen to her? And let me tell you why. So Mina is the founder and director of VivreSKIN Repair Clinic. She's also the founder and CEO of VivreSKIN Laboratories, VivreSKIN Academy, and Vive Wellness. She's a member of the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. She serves as an advisor at the famed, now this is my French game here on full display, Institut Pasteur Paris, which is probably wrong in pronunciation.
So not wrong. You're so correct.
Not wrong. Okay, awesome. And she's a member of MENSA International. Why should you care? Well, folks from MENSA have a very high IQ, and they use that to propagate human flourishing and human advancement. Very, very exciting community. She's been featured on Dr. Oz, NBC Today, Wall Street Journal Live, et cetera, et cetera. I could bore you all to tears with her 5-mile-long resume of accomplishments, but here's what you need to know. Listen to Mina. She is one to listen to. So, preamble out of the way. Let's start with the billion-dollar name that we've all heard of, Coolsculpting.
Coolscope. Don't we love Coolscope? So Coolscope is a generally very, very good machine. You know, definitely one that I've had to assess whether I should bring in or not. It is very saturated. Coolscope is owned by a very large company that has lots of funding for advertisement. So it's become a household name, and it's been around for a while. The technology itself, if you ask if it works or not, it does. It uses cryolipolysis, where it deep freezes the cell of the fat cells. So what happens is when the dead cells are just dead and dying there, it gets purged out through the lymphatic drainage system. So with something like that, there's a lot of patient education that's needed from the provider end. And that's something I see all the time, you know, with a lot of physicians, where when they're looking into a machine, you have this laser rep sitting in front of you. They tell you what's great, what's good, and they're like, okay. And then they do a demo and they see it works, which in the case of Coolsculpt, it does work. And they're like, great, let me bring in the machine. And now, mind you, these machines are lots and lots of money. And, you know, then they just go straight into the selling mode. However, one thing people tend to forget is to truly look at clinical studies, look at the reports of all their adverse events. And with anything and everything in aesthetics medicine, there's always adverse event. Botox, injections, anything, doesn't even have to be devices. Now, some of these are minor, some of these are major, and you need to see what there are that has been collected over the years. And in the problem with Coolsculpt is that actually there are a few issues. One is that because the applicators that's needed to put on the area that they want to lose, it's stationary. So with over time of, you know, putting, and sometimes these are user issues. You know, they might not have a qualified technician that's doing it. So either the setting's too high, they put it too cold. I'm not really sure because I don't have Coolscope myself, but I don't know if there's like a setting where they can adjust the temperature. But the fact that is that it's there for an extended amount of time, it can cause burning of the skin because the cold technology has to truly penetrate through many layers of the skin before it even reaches the fat. And not only does it reach the fat, you have to have it to go through the fat to kill the fat cells. So you're going deep. And I've had patients where they have gotten Coolsculpt elsewhere come to me where I need to fix skin burns. And so that's a big issue. The other issue is fat cell hypertrophy. So instead of shrinking the fat with time, the fat actually becomes hypertrophy. Now, that doesn't mean that they got fat in that area. It's the fat cell itself. It's manipulating and mutating that fat cells. At this point, nobody knows why and what causes it, but there has been adverse events with that. One famous one is made famous by the supermodel Linda Evangelista, where she has claimed that, quote unquote, her face was deformed from the usage of Coolsculpt. Now, she's not deformed, but I guess when you have somebody that's so beautiful and so perfect looking, any little imperfection is deformity to her, right? So, but that's not to be taken lightly as a provider that's assessing the machine, because that needs to be known. You buy the machine, that's your risk, and it's your responsibility to also advise the patient of that ahead of time. None of us want lawsuits, so.
God, no, of course not. I'm looking at a study here from PubMed Central that was published, looks like in 2014, June 26th. So it is a bit dated at this point. But there are some high praise, or is some high praise for cryolipolysis in particular, as being proven to be a very safe method for, and I'm quoting here, cryolipolysis has been proven to be a very safe method for body contouring and is accomplished with only minimal discomfort. Further up in the study, it says cryolipolysis was shown to reduce subcutaneous fat at the treatment site by up to 25% after one treatment, and improvements were seen in 86% of the treated subjects. So yeah, it seems like this approach is effective. There just are some side effects to be sensitive to.
Exactly. I mean, it's just certainly effective. I've seen my own patients that's gotten it, and it's one of the very few methods in terms of the hundreds and thousands of body machines out there that does not require multiple session. Of course, there are some, and it depends on the patient's body fat content as well. You may need 2 sessions. You may need, some people might need 3. But generally, I have seen changes after 1 session, and that is very rare when it comes to body contouring machine that is non-invasive. And another thing about cold, the science of cold, as somebody that basically fixes skin, looks at skin all day, cold is always safer than heat. Cold does not produce pigmentation. Heat will induce pigmentation in patients that have either melasma, and a lot of them don't know they have melasma. It also triggers pigmentation in patients with skin type 4 and above, skin type 4 being me, Asian skin. And then it progressed to darker colors. Those patients are very, very hard to treat when it comes to sunspots, melasma, freckles, any kind of spot, because somebody that understands laser medicine, we know that certain heat waves, certain heat length, frequency, and all that put together will trigger to make things worse. So I had a patient, and this is something that was jaw-dropping to me, that came to me and she's like, I just have lots and lots of sunspot. And I'm like, sure, come. And she's Asian, so she's skin type 4. And long story short, she had showed me a picture of her after she gave birth, and it was just, slight little marks. Went to a very, very reputable dermatologist. I don't know if she saw him or, one of his NPs or anything like that, but they put her straight up on a 10-session laser, and it looked like it worked. It all diminished. However, 6 months later, not only did they come back, it came back with a vengeance. And then now the time she walked into my office, she looked like she had dirt on her skin. That's how dark it got. And upon first look, she has melasma. So now you have the perfect storm of not using laser devices on somebody that is a skin type 4 and has melasma. And so, I mean, long story short, we treated her and now she's super happy. We put her on a great regimen as well for at home to continue maintenance of suppressing melasma, because unfortunately melasma, there's no cure. And that's a hormonal thing, you know, you get that from being pregnant and things like that. So that's a problem with a lot of providers. And you know, my word of caution is with any device we talk about is to truly understand it and not just listen to the rep or even the doctors that the rep connect you with, because just know they get paid. Talk to people that has it, you know, other providers, do your research, ask for clinical studies. That's the best thing you can see. How many ethnic patient has been treated, you know, with that device. So with Coolsculpt, it's very safe because cold does not trigger pigmentation.
So yeah, which is interesting because in that same study, it says, very last paragraph, cryolipolysis is safe for all skin types.
Yep.
With no reported pigmentarian changes, and is
Mhm.
safe for repeated application. So the takeaway here is something like there's a difference in terms of the possibility or the surface area and how wide it is. Let's say for
Right.
pigmentation concerns, well, you said melasma is triggered by hormonal changes, not necessarily from
Right. So
device
anybody can
application.
have melasma.
Right.
And that's,
Okay.
you know, and these are body devices. So it's a little easier, but, you know, for people that would be looking at something that can be used on the face, I mean, there's a lot of questions they need to be asking, and
Yeah.
not only asking, a rep will answer anything to sell the device. You need to be looking at the clinical studies that is done with that machine to showcase that it is really truly effective. Everybody's going to say their things are all for all skin type. I've got pigmented with a microneedling machine, a RF microneedling machine that says it's all skin type safe. I mean, that doesn't mean anything to me.
Show me the data is the point.
Yeah.
Is it sensible to be, maybe this is my inner neuroticism coming out, but I'm looking at disclosure statements on clinical studies. So in this particular study here, which again is the one that I've been mentioning, which the title of it, for those of you that are curious in terms of looking it up, is Cryolipolysis for Non-Invasive Body Contouring, Clinical Efficacy and Patient Satisfaction is the study name. Now, at the very bottom of this, I want your feedback on the footnote section, like I was alluding to with the disclosure statements. In this particular study, the authors report no conflicts of interest in this work. So is there, or have there been instances where, and this might be a little in the weeds, but I think this is helpful for due diligence when researching products. Has there been, or have there been instances that you have seen where there have been conflicts of interest because perhaps a study was, I don't know, done by whatever, someone that would have a conflict of interest that should be something that buyers look out for?
Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, a good friend of mine who is a very well-known dermatologist out in Chicago, he does a lot of studies, not on only just devices, but, you know, skins and things like that. And these are published studies. So there's a difference between white paper and published studies. Published studies are actually published. They follow certain regulatory guidelines that needs to be followed. And white papers are things done in-house. You know, I could tell you who might have a lab to do the study, and there's nothing wrong with white paper. You know, to me it's still data, but you know, sometimes it can get questionable because it's not regulated. So this friend of mine who does all these studies is also a medical director for a laser company. In terms of he's basically like their doctor advisor. So he's not part of the laser company, he's just paid by them. At the same time, of course, because these companies know him, he does a lot of laser studies on not only this company, but also all the other companies out there. So I guess on paper, it could be considered conflict of interest, but when it comes to somebody, and this is something that I guess other people can't discern really, you know, but for me, like I know who he is. He is somebody that has a very huge name in the dermatology world, you know, and being that this is a published studies and he has to follow certain guidelines, it's the conflict of interest doesn't get to play a role in it because he is so restricted by the things that a published studies need to have. And when I say published studies, you will find these in the American Journal of Dermatology or other like publications that are notable that are known to publish actual studies.
Got it. Okay, cool. So something to certainly be thinking about as you're making an investment
Right.
decision in a new system. Okay. Okay, so I want to get into the consumer reviews and the final Mina's yay nay on this type of device, or maybe something more like who this might be for.
Right.
One thing though, before I get into that, is at the end of this study, again, the end of the abstract, there's a line that says, although no procedure has been accepted as the gold standard for non-invasive body contouring as yet, cryolipolysis is considered to be both safe and efficient with the high patient satisfaction rate. The thing that stands out there is
Mhm.
the no procedure has been accepted as the gold standard for non-invasive body contouring as of 2014. So we'll continue to go down this path, and maybe throughout or at the end of this, we'll figure out, well, maybe that is the gold standard. So
Right.
more to come on that for the audience. So let's jump to we've already gently touched on the science. Any other notes on the science you'd want to mention with
No,
Coolsculpting?
not really. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Of course, there's all these like little things, and this is another thing. You could have company A selling something very similar as company B, and they're both cryolipolysis, and then the company will say, "A, well, we have also this additional technology that will penetrate the cold deeper." I'm totally making this up, by the way. And then company B will say, "Oh, well, the reason why this actually works is because our cold technology wraps the cold around the fat cells." There's a lot of fancy wording that is very technological and very clinical, and laser companies are the best people to do it. Like if I ever need copywriting for anything I need to sell and I need to sell now, I am hiring somebody that copywrites for a laser company. These are all very similar technology. And while maybe what they claim is, yes, true, this may penetrate deeper, this may wrap the cold around, the cell, it's all the same. Nothing. The fact that we're not breaking skin, such as actual liposuction, there's only so much you could do. And so hence why, going back to Coolsculpt, it is considered one of the most one of the more effective treatment machines, because that's kind of, I want to say, as close to lipo as you can get. And hence why, as we talk about the other machines, everything takes multiple sessions. And when I say multiple, some could be up to 10 sessions, because you can really go so deep, no matter what technology you have, whether you're using heat or cold or radio frequency, it doesn't matter. You just, without opening you up, you can only go so deep.
Fair enough. So be leery of fancy copywriting.
Yes,
which
yes.
we're all
Lasers company they excel in it. They are number one, I have to say.
sure. So if you're looking to hire talent, maybe go steal a copywriter from a laser company, evidently.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's get into the consumer reviews, because the other piece of this as well is the consumer's perspective of a product. Not to say that placebo effects are necessarily at play here, but certainly public perception of a product as a investor in a technology is something to be considered and factored into your algorithm of decision making for the acquisition of a system. So in the case of Coolsculpting, we're going to be using Real Self as our go-to for reviews and rankings, or ratings rather. And so in the case of Coolsculpting, it has an 80% worth it rating with 4,455 reviews as of the time of this show. Any observations on that, or any reasons why maybe it's not higher or why it's not lower, anything that jumps to mind with that particular?
No, I actually think it's right on par to where it is. And also, when it comes to ratings and reviews, and of course I look at those too, they're factors, just like when you're looking at a restaurant, whether the food is good or not. If there's two people rating it, the rating doesn't mean anything to me versus 4,000 some people. So in this case, because Coolscope's been around for a while, the rating, to me, there's a little more credibility to it. And then also, with, as in anything, there's always going to be somebody that hates it. Maybe people that really did have an adverse event. So I think what you're seeing on Real Self is pretty accurate for that machine.
Okay. And Pareto would be so proud, the 80-20 guy. 80% love it, 20% don't. It falls in line with the natural order of the universe with, again, Pareto's principle. Okay, so that's Coolsculpting, the product, the science, and consumer reviews. Mina, what is your final thought on Coolsculpting?
Well, my final thought is that it's a machine worth looking at. I would, I personally don't have it, also because my practice does do in-office lipo. So, I just can't have 15 machines. I would love to. I would consider that machine. Again, just know your facts. I can't stress that enough. And you'll hear me say it probably 100 more times throughout the rest of the show. But, providers don't spend enough time to do it. And the physicians don't have time. I get it. Have somebody assign that project to somebody. Go through every single clinical study. Ask questions. They're not going to give you their list of adverse event. They may or may not allow to, but ask. Were your adverse event done on color patients? How many were there? Those are information that they should be able to give you. Maybe not in the form of the actual study. I don't know. Every company has, their own rules, but you've got to ask. You got to ask about adverse event, and don't just ask the rep, because the rep will say, oh, no, there's none really. Or, oh, there was one, but, so-and-so just treated her differently, so that's not really on us. Reps will tell you anything to sell a machine. And I think most of us know that. So, ask for data, not their words.
As a salesperson, I would implore the audience that are dealing with salespeople to run for the hills when you interface with the rep that does not share something that is not in their best interest.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? So you should absolutely be sensitive to that. Okay. All right, so that's Coolsculpting. Hey, 1 down, 12 to go. We are making great progress for 20 minutes into this. Maybe we'll pick up the pace here. In fact, let's try to do that here. So second product that we're going to look at, our system, is Emsculpt. What can you tell us about Emsculpt? What is it? What does it do?
Emsculpt is great. It uses electric magnetic frequency to basically manually contract your muscle. So what they love to tell people is, and I don't know the exact number, whether it was like 30,000 or 50,000 crunches in a matter of half hour. That's fantastic. I mean, and I've tried it myself. It works. I'm sore the next day. And even if somebody that has the time and the energy to go to the gym, it's not humanly possible to do the amount of crunches that the machine produces. And this is why so many practices have it. However, there is a however to that machine. And I do not get that machine because I was swearing up and down when I opened my practice that I'm getting it. And the reason why is because I want to be on that every day. But one thing I realized, and this is very similar to other companies that have similar machines, is that it does not lose, and I'll add a disclaimer to what I'm going to say later. It does not make you lose fat. It works on your core muscle. So what does that mean? If someone that has a layer of fat on their stomach and they go to Emsculpt their abs, yes, it works. And even if I were to take a biopsy of, that muscle piece and, whatever it is, it works. However, if that layer of fat is there, I'm not going to see your six pack. And that's the problem with Emsculpt. And then for the people that are fit and have no fat on their stomach and just need that tightening, maybe post-birth or something, I don't know if they really need to pay $3,000-$4,000 for a series of, however Emsculpt, how much people charge for Emsculpt. It's hefty. Of course, to some people, money may not be an issue, then yes, by all means. But for the normal patient, and my patient base are, I wouldn't say on the wealthier end, but not, where, let me throw $3,000 at you. I mean, I would love that, but they just won't do it. There's other things that's more worth it for them to do than to do a series of Emsculpt, which, by the way, they need to maintain, because if you go to the gym every day and you stop, you're gonna get flabby, right? It's the same thing. It's not a permanent effect. You have to maintain it. And that's also what they sell. The rep will tell you, then you go sell them a maintenance package. So that's one thing. But however, I don't know if there's a new Emsculpt out there called Emsculpt Neo. So the difference with that, and friends of mine that actually has that in their office are very happy about it. But I mean, then again, it's like, You pay $300,000 for that machine. You've got to be happy and just be enthusiastic and selling that.
$300,000 for the
Emsculpt's
Emsculpt Neo.
expensive. Emsculpt, even the regular Emsculpt is expensive. They price very high. And the reason why is because they spend a ton of money on marketing, celebrity endorsement. They have a mobile truck that goes around the country. I mean, everybody knows what Emsculpt is. There's a reason why. It's because of marketing. So you're paying for their marketing for them. You're paying for that video of, I don't even know who, Jennifer Lopez, saying that she got Emsculpt before the Super Bowl. So, things like that. Anyways, the Emsculpt Neo, they combine technology. So not only now is it contracting your muscle, there is radio frequency involved where it kills the fat cells. So with what I said, it may be something that works. I don't know how many sessions that would require. I don't know what the output energy of their radio frequency is, because that does highly make a difference. According to my friend, it does work. So they are making changes. Probably they recognize the problem is that it's not targeting everybody, so it's not selling with the Emsculpt, because most people have fat on their stomach. Most people have fat on their arms. We all have fat right on top of the muscle. So in order to lose that, I mean, for anything to work, you got to lose the fat first.
I'm looking at one of the BTL Emsculpt Neos from 2021 on onemedicalstop.com, selling for $194,495. It is a rarely used device that is 200 grand. So, wow. Yeah, not cheap, but it sounds like there is some efficacy to it, and it's probably a terrific product if you have the deep pockets to swallow that tab, let's say.
Right.
Okay. So the consumer reviews on this particular device, now this is for Emsculpt categorically, which includes the legacy device as well. On RealSelf, it appears, to give it a fair treatment, 365 recent ratings put Emsculpt at a worth it rating of 83%. So edging out Coolsculpting a bit. However, with about 4,000 less reviews, give or take a few hundred. So pretty high reviews nonetheless.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's a great machine. It's a great machine. It works. I mean, like I said, for providers, if they have the money to spend, it's a great addition. But if you're really trying to get something that is effective and that can target a lot of people, I would say that's not the machine to look at first, because you're limiting yourself with the patients. Love
it. Okay, cool. Well, I guess that was your final thought, unless there's any other final thought on Emsculpt.
That's it.
Okay, beautiful. All right, trucking along to sculpture. What is sculpture? What can you tell us about sculpture?
So sculpture uses radio frequency as well to kill fat cells. And they say it works on muscles, but I'm not sure if it does, because the radio frequency doesn't do anything to muscles. And a lot of devices out there use radio frequency as well. Again, they all claim that there's a different kind of RF technology that they're using. The heat, the depth of penetration with the heat, the width of penetration. So with radio frequency in general, it is not a targeted heating, it's a widespread heating. The problem with radio frequency is that it's going to take lots and lots and lots of treatment for it to have some sort of result. Now, I don't have sculpture, so I don't know for sure from personal experience, but the fact that it's just radio frequency itself, it cannot be like Coolscope. Like, don't expect it to be Coolscope. And this is also a reason why it's not the price of Coolscope. It does take sessions, and maybe there's some practices like that's fine with me, because my patients are willing to do that. They have that commitment, they have that patience. Then it's something to look at. The good part with radio frequency is that it also works on the skin. Basically, to be very honest with you, and companies are going to hate me for saying this because there's so many devices out there that's for tightening of the skin. And yes, there are some that are truly tightening, like meaning huge dramatic before and after photos. But those are the ones with kind of different technology. But any technology with heat will help tighten the skin. That's it. It doesn't matter if it's RF. It doesn't matter if it's ultrasound. It doesn't even matter if it's an IPL treatment to get rid of marks. Whenever your skin is heated, your collagen is stimulated. So the whole point of skin tightening is boosting collagen. So any kind of device that has heat will do that. Now, and this is why laser reps hate talking to me, because what I would say is, well, how is it different than all the other, machines that will use heat to tighten the skin? And then they don't know what to tell me. Some will actually end up coming up with some sort of studies to show me, but that's not my point. With the body contouring device, one thing I know, and this is between devices and even liposuction as well, is that a lot of times when you lose fat, your skin gets saggy. You're not gonna, maybe you do have a 23-year-old patient, but most of the times these are not 23-year-olds. They're 40, 50-year-olds patients. And with 40, 50-year-olds, there's not a lot of elasticity. There's not a lot of collagen in our skin. So one thing providers will need to know is that if you have a device such as the Sculpture, if it works, great, but you now will have to deal with the skin sagging problem. So RF does work on the skin to some extent, but not where, like someone who has major skin sagging because they're older and their skin's crepey already. That's not going to work on that. You're going to need a different device for that. And it's just kind of like an FYI to know, am I ready to deal with that?
I see. Okay. And I think I might have misspoke. I think I might have said TrueSculpt, because TrueSculpt is the radio frequency device. Sculpture is so I think that was my error. So we're talking about, so that's referring to radio frequency. Sculpture, which is a 1060 nanometer laser diode device. I think I said TrueSculpt and then I confused myself, which that is a radio frequency device. So apologies on my end if I said the wrong
or maybe
device.
I misheard.
No, yeah, well, it's confusing. Sculpture. Yeah, so everything that Mina just said, that was referring to radio frequency devices categorically, right? So and the chief of that castle, which is that the right expression? No, it's not. What would the expression be? Anyway, the pinnacle of radio frequency technologies, is TrueSculpt really that device, you would say, or is there a different device for contouring that jumps to mind for radio frequency and that mechanism of action?
I would say the Accent Prime by Alma.
Okay.
It is an RF device as well. However, the reason why I have seen better results with Accent Prime is because it combines radio frequency with ultrasound. So remember I told you a lot of times the devices that we're checking off the list and I'm telling you which ones are the better ones. All the better ones are usually the ones that have some sort of combined devices, because what happens with ultrasound, so like I said, with radio frequency, it's a widespread heating. With ultrasound, it's a targeted heating. So now you are heating up the fat cells from different facets, different angles, and you're approaching it from almost a three-dimensional way to kill the fat cells. Whereas radio frequency, yes, it works. And if you look at any studies, device specific, that has to do with killing of the fat cells with RF, it works. But again, every device has different energy output. Every device says that they do this and that, but it can only work to a certain extent. But the Prime does, combine both. The patients know no different. It's not like it's 2 steps or anything like that. But so I have seen better results. But again, it's something that does need multiple treatments.
Yeah. Okay. Huh. So the two devices then that jump to mind for radiofrequency categorically with that mechanism of action are so TrueSculpt, and then you're saying Accent Prime, which is actually a better product in the radiofrequency domain. Those are the two that jump to mind. And interestingly, it looks like per Real Self, TrueSculpt sees in one of their clinical studies a 24% reduction of fat thickness from a single TrueSculpt ID treatment measured by ultrasound, whereas Accent Prime, let's see what their data is. Ding, 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 ding. Where's their data? It's not visible right here. Interesting. Okay, well, it's not readily visible on their Real
And it's
Self.
not that new of a device. There should be some sort of something.
Yeah, I'm sure I could find. I was expecting it to be on Real Self. It's not though. Well, what is interesting, speaking of getting into the consumer reviews, Accent Prime's reviews or Real Self rating. Wow, 102 reviews, a 55% worth it rating.
Interesting.
Wow, that seems very low.
That seems, you know, to be honest, it seems low to me. But at the same time, I'm not surprised. With these radio frequency, ultrasound, you know, EMS, the problem is it takes time. And I mean, I've experienced this myself with my patients where, you know, I tell them 100 times, I have them sign a paper that says this does require multiple treatment. You know, with one of the device I have, I only sell them by packages because there's absolutely no reason to tell somebody to come into one for one time because I will never get that patient back.
Right.
And still, even with before and after picture, even though I did see a little bit of improvement after one session, she comes in and she's like, this is not working. I don't want this. And I'm looking at her like, I told you this, like, oh, this is a 10 treatment process. And the other problem with these is that sometimes there's user issues, you know, if it's not done correctly. And unlike Coolscope, where it is a stationary applicator, a lot of the RFs, it's manual. It's kind of like it's like a massage almost. It's a manual what's the word? It's a manual execution, right? Yeah, it's a manual execution. And so if maybe the user is not trained properly on it, you know, the heat's not penetrating. If you're moving, I'm not sure if you're supposed to move or not move, but whatever it is that you're not doing properly, the heat doesn't get down there because there's so many layers to get before you get to the fat. And not only do you, like I said, not only does the technology has to get to the fat, it has to get there to kill it. So the outcome does vary depending on user usage as well. And I think a lot of these reviews do come lower because of an user error on the provider's end, and also sometimes just patients being whatever, you know, like I did it 3 times and it's not working, even though they're supposed to do 10 times.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's probably an unfair rating then for Accent Prime.
Right.
Given that it's a better product than TrueSculpt ID in your eyes.
Right.
Which has it has no worth it rating? Am I cross-eyed? No, that cannot be. Okay, here it is. 71% worth it rating for TrueSculpt ID, but with only 55 reviews, whereas Accent Prime has so double with a 55% rating. So it looks like it's not, I mean, categorically rated frequency doesn't appear to be a mechanism of action that is really on par with something like a cold temperature based modality, maybe even a heat based modality like a sculpture, which is going to utilize the dial laser technology, the 1060 nanometer approach, which they're seeing a 24% reduction of fat cells or up to that in one session per this particular study that I'm looking at here. So what would you say then in terms of your final thought on Accent Prime and TrueSculpt? As far as go, no go, consider, maybe don't consider?
I would say if you're a practice that is very limited on budget and you don't have a lot of machines already, you know, you're kind of getting the modality that's really going to work to get the patient in the door, I would say none of that. Don't get anything radio frequency. As much as the fact that I actually do really like the Accent Prime, it's an auxiliary machine. You know, it's one that you can offer to patients that don't want to get your Coolsculpt or that don't want to get your liposuction. And again, everybody has different patient base. So if you know your patients will listen to you and will understand that this takes time, then by all means, something like the Accent Prime is a fantastic machine, because without opening your body, that's as close as you can get to, you know, something working over time. The other thing of caution is that with radio frequency, and this is also with, you know, whatever we talk about later with ultrasound and even the laser dial, unlike liposuction, the fat's not taken out. It's cell death. However, if a cell is sort of kind of dying and not yet dead, and the patient goes and has a milkshake after her Accent Prime treatment, the cell may very much be revived. So there's so much clinicals to cell death itself that we're not informed about by the laser companies. And to be honest with you, the laser companies might not even know. I mean, maybe the scientists behind it will, but not, you know, there's so many levels to a laser company. And, you know, just by selling the fact that this is cell death makes people think it's lipo without lipo. And also that, you know, you just have to set that expectation and understand that these are the problems that you're going to come across with this machine. And although these may be minor problems, but for me, who is, you know, also an owner of a practice, business is everything. You know, you want patient retention, you want a return patient, and you want that word of mouth too. So this is why Accent Prime, for example, is a great machine. I don't advise to not get it. You can by all means, I think it's a fantastic piece to have as an addition, but you just have to understand that those may be the possibility. You really, really have to get somebody trained to use it. In addition, that you might need additional modalities to support it.
Is it fair to say then that the more expensive the device is, the more aware you want to be of two things? One is where this product stacks in your portfolio, meaning, is it going to be your primary workhorse for contouring? If so, because it's operator dependent, it seems in some sense you probably are better off having a device. If you're spending big dollars, probably better off getting a device where the applicator is stationary, like a Coolsculpting. If it's an expensive device, again, something over 100K, 6 figures and beyond. And secondly, you also want to consider, I guess I just alluded to this, if it is going to be your primary workhorse, maybe you don't want to have something that's technician or operator contingent in terms of the outcomes, something like that. Okay. Now that's obviously, well, go ahead. Sorry, please.
No. Yeah, I was actually going to just agree with everything you said. The only thing is, instead of looking at pricing, and if you are somebody that is familiar with device companies, you will know that there are different tiers. There's companies, the top tier companies like Alma, Katera, Electronic, and then there was the lower tier company, but still very, very good machine like, is it Venus? Yes, the Venus company. And then there's, ones that are under even lower than that. And then there's those China made ones that we're going to talk about lots later. So I would say when assessing a device for body contouring, especially body contouring, because the expectation is so much in a patient when it comes to body contouring, you want something there is good technology behind it, not just, and when I say technology, I don't mean, oh, just let me see, oh, are you RF? Okay, that's great. Not just that, it's whatever. And like I said, every company has a different technology, just like laser for the face. I could use IPL for, from Alma, the Harmony from Alma, and somebody else has an IPL from another company. They're both exact same wavelength, but they are different technology. It could be the light itself. It could be the handpiece that makes a huge difference. So for me, buying from a top tier company, because it's such a large investment, it's such a high expectation from your patient, you want something where they really put in the research on putting the thing together, and not just here's a machine and we made it RF. Like, that's not going to cut it. Not in this day and age, and not in competing with the doctor's office next door. So for something like this, yes. And then when it comes to pricing, they're all the same. And it doesn't mean anything. Again, I'm going to get death threats from laser companies. What they list is literally does not mean anything. They'll tell you this machine's 150,000. This machine's 175. The negotiation process is what's going to determine how much your machine is. And when I say negotiation, I don't mean just $10,000 off. And they'll try all these fancy tricks to play with you. You know what? Actually, it's so funny. The other day, I was looking for a facial machine for my new location. And this like a hydrofacial kind of machine. And this rep has this really cool new one. And I'm like, oh, but I'm missing an oxygen scaling gun. With your machine, I'm going to have to buy it. And he goes, you know what? You buy the machine, I'll throw it in for you. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, it's a $300 thing. It's fine. You can just discount it more. They'll do fancy things to sound like I'll throw in this for you. It's the same pot of money. There's lots of room for negotiation. You just have to know how.
You said all devices are the same price?
In that tier. In that top tier. So, you're buying a fat contouring device from Lutronic versus a fat contouring device at Alma, it's going to be very similar in pricing. But if you go to the middle tier company like Venus, it's going to be cheaper. However, that middle tier of companies do have very good devices. I would trust them. Anything below that, I question. And at the end of the day, I'm not an expert. I'm not the scientist. I'm an engineer of devices. So I question because I don't know everything. And they also don't tell me everything. So I tend to stay away from that tier of machines. And a lot of those people are also not machine makers. They are not, like Alma makes their own devices. Lutronic makes their own devices. That tier are usually distributors, where they bring in machines from overseas to sell.
Got it. Cool. Well, let's move along. We're 46 minutes in and we are 4 deep. There are 8 more to go. We will get through this. Okay, let's talk sculpture briefly. Now, everything again, just to reiterate, audience members, I made a mistake, I believe, of saying True Sculpt. That misled Mina. That was all radio frequency talk. Now we're going to talk sculpture talk, which is the laser. Yep.
So when it comes to that, I think of Mission Impossible, with the laser guns. Basically, that's what it is. They're utilizing the light of the laser to kill the fat cell. It's all about killing the fat cell. I mean, that's the only way you can purge fat cell is if it's dead, right? So to be very honest with you, I have never had any experience with it. I've never even looked at the machine. I have not looked at their studies. However, to me, when I hear laser, it's very effective. Just the technology of laser alone, the science of laser alone is effective. Whereas there's some out there, and I'll touch on one later, that is with some other sort of light technology where I'm just like, how could that kill anything? So, and back to, when we're talking about radio frequency, yes, it works, but to a certain extent, and radio frequency just can't penetrate so far. Laser can. Just if you think about laser for the face, you have lasers that are non-ablative and you have one that are ablative to the point that your skin gets ripped off. So lasers are very, very powerful and it can kill fat cells. I have no doubt about that. However, the one thing I don't know about sculpture is in terms of the usage, how is it very much user dependent, or if it's not? I do understand that they have little pads, I think. Is it
sculpture? Yes. Yeah, they're stationary
so,
from what I can see.
So then, I feel a little better that it's not dependent on the person that is maneuvering the handpiece around. Unless they have very wavelength. Oh my God, I'm getting tongue tied.
It is Friday. It is cocktail 30 somewhere.
Yeah, and it's Mercury in retrograde, I heard. That's what my patient told me today. So, unless the technology is just not strong enough, there's no reason why they're not killing the cell death, the fat cells. So, and I know that Sculpture is a pretty well-used machine. I'm actually interested in hearing what Real Self has on there as their score.
Sure. Well, so quick couple notes here on the clinical studies from this particular site. It does not have a link to the clinical study from what I'm seeing here. Oh no, it does here at the very, very bottom. Okay, so there is a citation. So this is believable given that from what I can see. So the outcomes of a 25-minute procedure is that Sculpture can destroy up to 24% of the treated fat cells with no downtime. And let's see here. What else? Over 90% patient satisfaction rate from this particular study. And their real self rating, which this actually shocked me, is only 68% based on nearly 900 reviews.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Well, Sculpture, from what I understand, and I could be wrong, I do believe it's a older technology. It's an older machine. I don't know when it came out, but if it's an older machine, I want to say in the last 5 years, body lasers have evolved significantly in terms of technology, because people are realizing what a huge market share it could be. And it's a high yield product. You know, you're not charging just $600 for something. And at the same time, a lot of them don't work, or it takes forever to work. So therefore you don't have the patient for it. So in the last 5 years, it's really, really, truly evolved so much to now something looking robotic looking. But I believe Sculpture is one of the earlier machines that came out, I want to say. I'm not sure. So you know, maybe the lasers are not strong enough. And at the same time, again, going back to the fact that, you know, you're still you have to penetrate. So they can't get anything too strong, or else they'll burn you. They'll open your skin right up. I mean, people use lasers for surgeries to, you know, to cut open nowadays. They don't use scalpels anymore. So lasers are very strong. And I'm assuming if it's an older technology, they can't make it that strong. And therefore the patient probably needs many, many sessions, or maybe the technology itself just doesn't penetrate deep enough. These are the questions I would ask the rep to prove in form of clinical data. You know, if anyone's assessing that machine. But I, you know, in general, I just have to say that there are so many new machines in the last 5 years. I wouldn't look at anything older than that.
Yeah, I'm looking at YouTube videos on Sculpture reviews that are 5 years. Looks like the oldest is 5 years. So it's at least a 5-year-old technology.
Right.
Based on what I'm seeing here. I can't find the there's no Wikipedia page on it or anything of the sort, but certainly not a brand new technology. And yeah, again, that review rating is very bizarre. It seems like it'd be higher than that. And according to their clinical study, their patient satisfaction rate was 90+%. So it seems like it is a device that does have the science defends the and well, the outcomes indicate that it does work. There is a fat reduction of the adipose tissue, which is great. Probably a bit dated, and probably with that a bit pricey, given the fact that it is dated. And what's your final thought on Sculpture?
I would say that unless you have an amazing deal, it's a machine then you can get that machine. But, you know, like I said, I wouldn't look at anything older than 5 years in terms of their technology. And I don't know Sculpture's company that makes it, or, you know, like, I don't know anything about them. Maybe they'll tell you this is actually generation 3 and it's modified 2 years ago. That may be the case. But again, I would ask for data just so you have an apples to apples comparison, because that is that's going to make all the difference in terms of your patient results.
Got it. Okay, cool. All right, so we will leave Sculpture at that, and now we're going to get into Venus Freeze, Venus Legacy, and BTL. Let's start with Venus Freeze. Now, these are skin tightening devices, and that is obviously, I mean, it's still within the umbrella or underneath the umbrella of body contouring, which is part of contouring. So Venus Freeze, the one thing I do want to ask you about before we start speaking to that, and this is actually more of an Elixis thing, and but I think this is predominantly, well, this is for radio frequency devices that are monopolar radio frequency devices in particular. There's one study that I'm looking at here from, again, 2014. So this is quite dated, but the title of this is "A Focused Monopolar Radio Frequency Causes Apoptosis, a Porcine Model." Now, the thing that I want to ask you about is with the methods. So the second sentence here, it says that the study was done on 3 Vietnamese pigs in a certified veterinary facility. So I'm not trying to be a smart ass here.
On pigs.
But yeah, like is that the kind of thing that when you see that you just are immediately tempted to throw the study out?
Yes,
That it's
absolutely.
not human clinical? Okay.
Yeah, because the anatomy is so different. I mean, the anatomy, the dermal anatomy for patient to patient is different. You know, someone who is a skin type 6 who's African American is very different from somebody who is a skin type 1 who's Irish. So imagine a pig, and also my question is why? This is not drugs. This is not plastic surgery. I mean, it's a device study. Why would they use pigs? Like that's very questionable. It's a little shady, for lack of a better word, to me.
Got it. So another one of those things that you should be looking for in your clinical studies that you're researching.
Human studies.
On your device to stay human. Okay, fair enough. Got it. All right, moving on. So on to Venus freeze. What is Venus freeze and what should we know about it?
So with the Venus freeze, it actually is a combined technology machine from what I understand. It utilizes, there's actually a radio frequency, I believe, in there to heat the matrix of the skin and produce collagen. And at the same time, it also has a little bit of, I believe, EMS technology.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's pulse magnetic. Yes. Yeah. The EMS technology in there. So I think in short, the Venus freeze is a very old version of the Emsculpt Neo. I don't know if it works the same. Wow. It does not work the same because EMS can work in ways of like truly strongly contouring, you know, contracting the muscles, or it could, there's one that it's funny because we were all talking about it, and basically it jiggles the cells to death. So, and I believe this might be one of them. I don't know how jiggling the cells to death will really make it die, but it's
why
just
does the shake weight come to mind, by the way? Do you remember the shake weight little contraption from ages ago? Do you remember that thing?
Oh my God, the 1980s.
Yes. My mom had 2 of them, and nothing is more traumatizing than coming down from school in junior high, senior mom, doing a VHS shake weight training video with 2 shake weights. It was quite astounding. My God. Anyway, I don't know why the jiggling thing reminds me of that.
That may be the generation, very, very first generation.
Yeah. It was so good. It made its way into a full South Park episode. Shout out to Matt and Trey. Anyway, back to you. I don't mean to hijack.
No. So again, unfortunately, I don't have personal experience with the Venus freeze. I've heard good and bad about it. I think, you know what it is, just from looking at the technology, and I have it pulled up here. It's one of those that's a hit or miss. You know, it's the technology, the idea is there for the technology. Yeah. It may or may not work for some people. I mean, I'm surprised that the radio frequency, you know, like what they're advertising is the radio frequency is to tighten the skin by producing collagen, which we know, and we talked about that. But, you know, radio frequency actually does kill fat, but it doesn't advertise that. So to me, what I'm thinking is that there's so little radio frequency, or the output is so light that it doesn't even reach the fat. And it's a marketing kind of thing. But it sounds good for someone that doesn't truly understand laser medicine. It sounds great. Don't buy machine A that's just EMS. Ours is EMS with radio frequency. The rest they don't need to understand, and nobody does really truly understand, what radio frequency does, where it hits. So, it's because this is one of the older devices. First of all, we know that already the technology is not as on par as the ones that came out the last few years. So that's number one. Number two, I feel like because they even know themselves that the output's just not strong enough. So they're not even advertising that it's for fat cell. It's the RF alone. They keep saying that it stimulates collagen. So as in any fat loss, like I said, tightening the skin is important. Having that piece of feature is good, but it's just about the actual efficacy of it, and it doesn't look too good to me. If this world only has 3 kinds of machine, I will get this one. Otherwise, I mean, with how saturated it is with newer body contouring machines, this is just not one that needed to be purchased.
Yeah. 75% worth it rating with only 100 reviews after it's been around for quite a while. So this sounds like, in the eyes of Mina, this is probably one to stay away from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, moving on to Venus Legacy. Venus Legacy, and we'll go a bit more rapid fire through the skin tightening devices, because they're probably not as interesting as the contouring for fat reduction type devices. So Venus Legacy, though, I will read the quick bio here from RealCell for sake of time, so we could get an idea of what the heck it is. So Venus Legacy is FDA cleared to treat moderate to severe facial wrinkles for people with Fitzpatrick skin types 1 through 4, pale to light brown skin, and to temporarily reduce the appearance of cellulite. So this appears to be, if I'm not mistaken, Mina, this is specifically for facials.
It's for facials. I mean, what I'd like to do is any of my machines that I could use on face, I use on body as well. Obviously not for that, but because there are so many people that have either crepey skin or just aging skin in general. I mean, it's not just our face that ages, right? And nowadays, people still want to be in their bikinis and whatnot. So it's a facial machine, but I believe you could use it on the body as well. I do know the Legacy. Venus in general, like I said, is one of those mid-tier companies. So their pricing are very well, especially when you're looking at a machine from Alma, and then you get price shocked, when you look at Venus, because it's so much more inexpensive. They use a lot of RF technology. So the Legacy is an RF. RF does work more for skin tightening. However, RF in general is not going to be, I don't want to say the word strong, but it's just, you know what I use RF for? Let me tell you. I use RF when my esthetician performs facial, just to kind of have that little bit of lifting. It's not a standalone technology, and this company will completely dispute me for even saying anything like that. But it shouldn't be used as a standalone treatment. When you have a patient coming in saying, hey, I'm 55, I'm starting to get saggy skin and fine lines. What can you do about it? I don't want injectables. It shouldn't be just an RF, regardless whether it's the Legacy or not. There are machines that are using ultrasonic technology that is much stronger in terms of deep dermal heating, or a combine of RF and ultrasound, which thus proven to have worked very, very well. I just don't think RF is good enough. And also RF it's a spread heat, it's not targeted. So how are you controlling that? It's great when, my patients are doing facial, and in the middle of it, one of my protocol is to use an RF just for that lifting effect. And also RF, what's really good for is pushing products in the skin. So I'm iffy when it comes to radio frequency. Now, this is different. I just want to, people to understand what I'm saying. It's different when it comes to RF microneedling. That's different. You're breaking the skin. We're talking about nothing that breaks the skin right now.
Okay. All right. So this is another one that we probably want to maybe think twice about adding.
Yeah, I mean, it's unless you have lots of money. and you don't care, and you already have 15 machines, you just want to add another one for the fun of it, it's great.
Got it. Okay. Let's do a brief touch on BTL. I'm actually going to, I know I promised we're going to talk BTL and Elixis Ultra. Let's do a quick touch on both of those, just high level. And in fact, why don't we do this? For BTL and Elixis Ultra, let's just do a Mina's thought on both those devices. Then we'll spend the rest of our time on Vanquish, Eon, red light therapy, and then cavitation devices, just for sake of time here. So the BTL skin tightening device, what is Mina's final thoughts on the BTL?
The BTL, we're talking about Vanquish.
Am I duly? Yes. Oh, wait a minute. I'm wrong. It is not a skin tightening device. Oh my gosh, that's embarrassing. BTL Vanquish. So yeah, so hold on that I lied. Bad notes on my end. Elixis Ultra, that I believe is a skin tightening device, unless I again have gone fully delusional. Yes, it is. So Elixis is a non-invasive skin tightening treatment designed to smooth wrinkles and address skin laxity in areas like the face, jowls, neck, abdomen, arms, and thighs. And it's another combiner. Combines ultrasound and RF just yet again to stimulate new collagen production, which any sort of heat energy will do.
Yep, exactly. Any kind of heat energy will do. I mean, I guess that's like the broad term of it, right? They're combined actually will work better than an RF alone, because like I said, one's targeted and one's a spread, overall heating. So now you're targeting the cellular matrix of the skin, not fat. So the cellular matrix lies above the fat layer. So you don't have to heat so deep. It works. Number one, it does work. However, there's maintenance to it. Unlike ultrasound, or the actual term is HIFU, but unlike that, you do need multiple treatment, like with the other technology, which I guess we'll talk about later. One treatment a year or one treatment every other year is enough. Whereas there's a time commitment, like you really have to keep up at it. Again, with this machine, I'm not familiar with their energy output. I don't think it's too strong. I mean, and there's a setting, of course, and we never, generally the protocol is you never start off high anyway, but because of that, sometimes you do need to start off with twice a week or, once a week at the very least. So for something like that, so it does work, but it takes a time commitment. And also obviously you do have to think of the patient, if your patients are willing to pay for 10 treatment sessions. And even though this is not expensive, but at the end of the day, it's still a 10 treatment session, no matter how much you're charging. So that's something you do truly have to keep into consideration. I don't care what the reps are telling you. Oh, you're good after 4. There's always going to be somebody that needs more than 4. And generally they do need more than 4. They try to downplay it so that it sounds like an easy sell for you.
Okay. All right. So Mina's final thought on Elixis Ultra, or the newest Elixis Ultra, which is Elixis Ultra 360. Again, combining ultrasound and radio frequency energy to stimulate new collagen production.
I mean, I think it's a machine worth looking at, but you do need to just, find out all the side things to it and get the clinical data on efficacy. And, one thing to ask also is that when the clinical studies are done, it will tell you how many treatments it was done based off of. So then you kind of get a gauge.
Got it. Okay, fair enough. Well, blitzing over to Vanquish, we are so close. We've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3,
We're so
5
productive.
more to go through. The most knowledge per minute in the aesthetics content universe. All right, BTL Vanquish. Here we go. So the Vanquish has a 64. I'm going to start conflating all these bits here. Just give it all out at once to orient the listeners, and then we'll get your feedback. Again, for sake of time here. So the Vanquish has a 64% worth it rating on Real Self with about 233 reviews. It is, let's see, it's a non-surgical body contouring treatment that's FDA cleared for fat reduction on the abdomen and thighs. It uses radio frequency. triggering apoptosis. And anything else to note on the description here? No, it is not. Oh, it is. Here we go. Per Dr. Maloney, it is the first aesthetic RF technology to emit an electromagnetic field over a large treatment area, which allows for the safe delivery of RF energy over the entire midsection. So it's contact free. And that, it seems, is the big selling point of this particular product. What are Mina's thoughts on the Vanquish?
Mina has a lot of thoughts on the Vanquish.
Okay, let's go.
Contact free, yes, because and I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, Austin, but like sometimes when people get facials and they get light therapy and they're laying down and there's this like half moon shape red light or blue light on top of, that's literally how the machine looks. So it's contact free, but I honestly don't like, what difference does it make? You know, it's, to me, the contact free thing doesn't, it's not COVID right now. You know
Right. Okay.
They are very old. Vanquish Me is one of the very first non-invasive body contouring machines. And it is actually a machine, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's by BTL, right?
Yes.
Okay, but it's not made by BTL. So BTL, I don't know if you know anything about them, especially way back in the day. They like to buy other people's machine and put their own branding on them. So in fact, oh my gosh, in fact, they had made 2 years ago a machine that is supposed to compete with Coolsculpt. And I forget what it's called. And they were really like hardcore pushing it. It's not their machine. It's another machine that they brought in from Korea that they branded themselves. I don't remember what it's called. Clearly, it was a major failure. Vanquish is another machine that is one of the biggest failure in non-invasive body contouring. I don't care what you tell me with their technology. The thing is, because it is one of the earliest machines made, the technology is so poor that even without contact, and yeah, it better be no contact, because it makes you so hot that it's unbearable. And when I say hot, I don't mean like, you know, in a sauna blanket kind of hot. I have a very high pain tolerance and I love the heat. I did a demo and within 3 minutes, and I was so excited, by the way, because here I am, I'm like, I'm getting a free fat loss treatment. I can't wait. 5 minutes. And I really, really try to hold it out. 5 minutes. I'm like, you got to get this off of me. It was so hot. I felt like my skin was going to turn into flames. And then of course the rep didn't know what to say and they want to, you know, downplay it to make it look like it's not normal. They're like, oh, you must be so dehydrated. It was the worst machine. And now if you talk to any providers that know about this machine, they will say the same thing. You know, maybe they didn't have the same experience they felt like they were burning, but it's not comfortable. It's definitely not a comfortable machine.
Wow.
And if you think about it, if it's no contact, and here we are talking about how deep these heat needs to be, I mean, it must be like an oven, you know, kind of like bulb or whatever they use. That's why it was so hot.
Interesting. This is the first device I've seen as one of the cons on Real Self. It says small areas of fat necrosis, which feel like hard bumps under the skin, can develop, though they usually resolve over time, thank God, with the help of massage. But I haven't ever come across a device or read about a device that produces, in some cases, necrotic, well, certainly
Yeah,
necrotic
and
injury,
it's
but
very unusual in a device like that.
wow. Okay. Well, that explains why it has a 64% worth it rating. It's probably because it's so damn hot, can't bear it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to assume that that is probably not a device that Mina would say, yes, oh my God, call your rep today and buy it right now. Okay,
Do
fair
they even
enough. Fair
sell
enough.
it? I actually don't even know if they still sell it nowadays to practice it.
Oof.
I mean, they're circulating around, I'm sure, but yeah, don't get that machine. Even if you're looking to get it like secondhand, because I'm sure there's lots of those on the market. There's just other better ones.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, well, we're going to scoot along. So now we will look at the Eon. Eon. And Eon, I'll give you the quick setup here, is Wow, evidently it's maybe the best machine in history, as far as I can see in worth it ratings, with a 97% worth it rating. Now, admittedly, very small sample size of just 47 reviews. And those reviews, who knows how well, let's assume that they're accurate and truthful. But Eon is an FDA cleared non-surgical laser body sculpting treatment that is described by its manufacturer. So take it with a grain of salt. It's coming from their manufacturer, but it's described as a smart body contouring unit that uses an automated robotic arm with smart sensor technology to scan the body and create a customized treatment plan for fat reduction on the abdomen and flanks. And it's touchless, and it uses, oh, interesting, it uses a 1064 nanometer wavelength laser to deliver thermal energy into the adipose tissue, triggering apoptosis, And the claim is that an air cooling system and temperature monitoring protocol procedure deal thing ensures that the skin surface never rises above 39.5 degrees to maintain patient comfort. Sounds like a hell of a claim.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, it's very new. It's very, very new technology. And it's very futuristic. If ever anyone actually goes to search for a picture, it's not like the device you and I know of and think about. It's literally has like an arm where it hangs down from the ceiling, and that's what's scanning your body. So it looks very cool. It's like your social media will explode if you put that on there. It's so new that I don't know much about it. I mean, I understand it's using laser technology. I'm not understanding, and I'm sure there's an answer to all of this, but how does it scan your body? Does it sense your BMI, or, like, what's the standard? Does it use the same standard scanning on you versus scanning on me in order to quote unquote customize treatment? So those are like the question. And I guess maybe this is what new technology is, it's these cool things that I wouldn't understand in my head that they've come up with a solution for, and having seen the device, actually, I don't know where the cooling technology comes from, but understanding that it's using laser and it's contact free. Not only is it contact free, if you look at a picture, it's pretty high up. It's not like the Vanquish where it's like right above you. There's got to be major heating. Like it must be really, really hot. And so a cooling mechanism has to be built into that somehow. But I just don't know how it works, because it needs the heat to penetrate first before the cooling kicks in.
Right. Okay.
And being that it's no contact, the cooling is not in the handpiece. Usually when it comes to laser, when there's a cooling mechanism in the technology, it's in the handpiece itself. So there's a lot of questions, but that doesn't mean it's bad or anything. I'm just literally thinking out loud when it comes to this machine. And again, because, technology in the medical world evolves so quickly that I'm not surprised, if this is effective, then this is the coolest and best machine anyone should be getting. I should be looking into that.
You might. Yeah. I'm looking at their clinicals now. So their clinical overview here suggests or shows, according to a 2019 study done by looks like Dr. Fiala at Fiala Aesthetics in Orlando. So after a single treatment, ultrasound average of fat reduction was 21.6%. Now, what's interesting is a contrast, not to pitch CryoSkin here, but I'm going to do that anyway, is that our study was right around that same percentage for presumably a lot less than this device, which I'm guessing with their treatment prices that they list on their website of $3,000 to $4,000 per treatment. That's what Eon has published on their website per Eon treatment. To get roughly the similar or a similar outcome is pretty astounding. And actually, so they have, let's see, next data point here, bullet is an average circumferential reduction was 1.6 inches. CryoSkin had a 1.86 inch reduction. Interesting. And 96% of the patients would recommend the procedure. So it looks like a great device. But I can't imagine that it's anything less than what would you guess this thing's value?
I would guess it's probably listed at anywhere between 250 to 300,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the thing, and this is with any technology, even with like an iPhone, right? It's when it's new and it's hot and it has technology that's nobody's ever seen before, it's going to be expensive. And
Yeah.
this is one practitioner, but let's just say the efficacy is out of this world. But then now you assess, okay, number one, is it worth it to bring in a device that only works on one thing? And that's, yes, body contouring is a huge market, but still, it's just body contouring patients. So now you look at your own patient base, but it's still very expensive. Your monthly payment, are you going to pay? Are you going to be able to sell that much? To even just, I'm talking not even profit, but to make back your monthly payments of the
Yeah.
machine. And in order for you to do that, you've got to sell, what did you say on the website? 3 to 4,000 a treatment.
Yeah. Treatment is what
I'm
it looks
going to
like.
shell that out because 3 to 4,000, my patients will opt for in-office smart lipo, which is barely any downtime, finished in 45 minutes. The scar is the size of a mosquito bite, like the dot in the middle of the mosquito bite. I mean, there's just, you have to assess what's out there, whether it's you have it in your office or not. I mean, the thing is, if your patient's going to pay that money, but they rather have lipo, you got to see what's next door too, because that's the worst thing, is to lose a patient because you're trying to charge $4,000 for this fat freeze treatment, or whatever this is, the laser fat treatment. And you want to offer an option. You want to be able to sell them where you're retaining them and not have them go to the office next door with smart lipo. So that's when the pricing gets a little too crazy for me. From non-invasive body contouring, that's too expensive.
Yeah. All right. So that's probably, am I fair in saying that's probably a maybe think twice about before adding
It's a machine
Neon?
to watch.
Okay.
Put it this way.
Yeah.
To keep it on your radar, watch, see how, Coolscope is also amazing, going back to the first machine. But now with this many years of tenure of the machine, now we understand that there are side effects. I would watch this machine. And then guess what? When there's new technology that comes up, this machine is going to go down.
Probably. All right. So we'll add that to the keep an eye on it, but maybe be a little bit more,
Right.
run a bit more due diligence, let's say, on that particular
Yes.
device. All right.
Yeah.
So trucking along to red light therapy, in particular, the Ultra Slim device, which I will again set up here for you. Real self, here it is in 3, 2. All right. So what is Ultra Slim? Well, first off, it has pretty good ratings of, or a worth it rating of 82%. Pretty damn expensive. It looks like the average cost is $3,200, just over that. It is FDA cleared. It is a non-surgical contouring procedure that uses proprietary red light technology, also known as PBM or photobiomodulation, to help reduce the fat layer just under the skin. And unlike Coolsculpting or Ultra Shape, it doesn't destroy fat cells, nor does it remove them like lipo, which to me sounds like not something to tout as a big positive, but the former, the not destroying the fat cells, because that's kind of what you want when you're doing contouring, I would think.
Right.
But in any case, Ultra Slim uses LED light, red light energy to induce lipolysis in fat cells. So anywho, it triggers starvation mode in the cells, creating a transitory pore in the membrane, releasing the triglycerides and fatty acids, causing the fat cells, the key bit here being to shrink, not permanently reduce them, evidently. Thoughts on Ultra Slim?
I wouldn't get it.
Okay,
Straight up.
moving on.
Like, it's number one, this is the one I was talking about. It actually it empties the fat cells, but the fat cells always going to fill back up. Yeah. We're always going to eat. And as we age, as our metabolism slows down, the fat cells will accumulate and fill up even faster. And I mean, unless you're somebody that's like eating nothing but salad with no dressing all day and maybe, a little tiny piece of grilled chicken, you know what I mean? Like, unless you're like that, first of all, if you're like that, you don't need this machine. And it doesn't make any sense to me. And red light therapy, to me in general, it's great to produce or decrease certain things we want on the skin superficially. Like we use red light therapy to decrease inflammation in the skin. Or sometimes when I have a very ablative laser on a patient where they're really, really swollen, after the procedure, we put red light on them. Now, I'm sure maybe it's a different types of bulb, a different type of energy. Red light doesn't really have energy. That's the thing. Like, meaning like we can't control the output of the energy. I mean, if that's the case, I'll just change everything in my room with the red light bulb. I'd be supermodel skinny by the time I walk out. It just, there's a lot of, it's very questionable. And not only that, even the fact that their claim is just emptying the cells, you're going to get a pissed off patient.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, you have a very staunch opinion on that device, so we will move on. That is a do not buy per Mina. Right. All right. So we will wrap up the show today with our favorite category of products, JK LOL. That is not the case, but cavitation devices from, well, let's just say overseas. So I am looking at a handful of different devices. When you type in cavitation machine, you will find products like the standing ultrasonic lipo laser cavitation 2.0. They love saying 2.0. RF sculpting 40K machine that sells for $1,200, etc. So why are these devices something that no one should ever even consider touching categorically?
No,
these low-end
and
cavitation devices.
So sad. It is so I want to say, I don't want to say market, because there's not one person marketing behind it. It's not like BTL marketing the Neo or anything, but it is such a common term that people know of because so many people are using it. And I'll explain to you why. It's not a medical device. So estheticians are buying it and offering laser. And if you do a search, these machines call themselves laser lipo. There's no laser in there and there's no lipo in there, but it's their marketing term. I don't know why. Unfortunately, I guess it's not regulated because it's not FDA approved. Number one, it's not FDA approved. So, what does that mean? When it's not FDA approved, it means if you're a physician and you have an adverse event, you go to court, you get sued, then you lose because you're using not an FDA approved device. So that's number one. Number two is just that there's no regulation in terms of what's really, I mean, like it's calling it laser lipo. There's no laser and there's no lipo. Like, why is it laser lipo? I don't understand. The reason why it is so common in terms of people know what it, or they think they know what it is because estheticians are buying it. And we have estheticians all over the world, or let's just talk about all over the country, that's opening their own because they don't need a medical license to open just a facial place, not even a med spa, because at the very least, med spa in most states does require a medical director. So it's one of the few machines that an estheticians can buy and perform legally. So with the saturation of amount of estheticians out there comes cavitation. Now, it does not work. They could say there was, just like they're calling it laser lipo, they could say it's RF, they can say it's ultrasound. And let's give them benefit of the doubt. It's in there, the technology, it's not going to go deep enough. There's no way that they have the clinical studies to perform, to see where the performance is at. And they're not going to put something that, as soon as the esthetician puts it on the patient's body, it's going to burn, inflame. They're not going to do that because that will be a huge issue. So sometimes, and this is really bad to say, I even wonder if it's just heating up their wand. Like it's just turning, it's like a heater at home, right? You just turn it on, the wand turns hot, and therefore they think it's working. I mean, it's horrible to say, but certain places overseas do make things that are not real. Again, going back to the fact that it's calling it a laser lipo device, to a person that doesn't know better, and it's having a consultation with an esthetician, it sounds great. Hey, just do 10 sessions of the laser lipo.
Wow. Now, oh God, I didn't realize there was I haven't looked close at these devices. I just immediately wrote them off because the sticker on the side of them price-wise. But there is no laser technology in them. There's no cavitation technology in them. So it is immediately deceptive, which should be the first sign of I should steer clear of this. And they just categorically don't work. And so those that do think that the devices are working really are just experiencing a heating of the wand. And so it seems like they are working, but
Right.
they're just not.
You know what? It's questionable. And we there's just no way we could know because there's no
Yeah.
studies behind it.
Right.
And before any estheticians, if there are estheticians listening or watching, comes to try to kill me, they're going to dispute that no, it works. So what is actually really popular in using right now, it's not on its own, that there's something called width therapy or body sculpting that is done by estheticians, where it's a multi-step procedure to break down, okay, this is quote unquote what they sell it as, break down fat cells and reduce cellulite. So it involves the rolling of certain wood devices on a certain part of your body, followed by the cavitation device, or they might call it the laser lipo, and then followed by, I don't know, some lymphatic drainage. It's multi-step. It's like, I look at it as such manual labor that I'm just like, wow. And they say it works. And of course, when you're manipulating fat or anyone's body like that, it is going to work because we all, as we age, have kind of accumulated water and fat are not smoothed out. So I don't know if in fact you're going to lose inches, but there are going to be differences. If somebody comes and manipulate my body like that, of course I'm going to look different too. However, they think it's a cavitation that is part of the procedure that's making it work, but it's not. I could use hot stones and do what they're doing as part of their multi-step protocol, and it's going to produce the same result, if you understand what I'm saying.
Wow. So that device, categorically, the category of devices that are these low ticket, sub $5,000,
right,
quote, laser lipo cavitation type devices,
right,
run for the hills.
Run for the hills. I mean, no, if you're a legit medical practice that's looking to purchase it, I would definitely not get it. If you are, a spa owner that is not medicine based, where there's no medical director, I would be careful. And I would really truly go and understand the protocol for something and why it works and choose the right device to work it with, rather than just taking somebody's protocol and just straight up transferring it to using it as your own. At the end of the day, I think I've said this 100 times, is the understanding. Once you understand something, you can even tweak a treatment. Even with these body contouring devices out there that do work, if you combine it with something else, you have your own treatment that is superior to other people, and that's really effective. So at the end of the day, it's patient retention, and this is how you're going to get the person to come back.
100%. Well, Mina, is there anything we didn't cover, we didn't touch on that we should wrap with?
No,
that jumps to mind. Covered a lot.
We covered a lot of devices. I'm surprised. Wow. I thought it would take us all day, Austin.
No, we got through it. Coolsculpting, Emsculpt, Accent Prime, TrueSculpt, Sculpture, Venus Freeze, Venus Legacy, Elixis Ultra, Vanquish by BTL, Eon, Red Light Therapy, Ultra Slim, and Cavitation Devices. Wow.
Yes.
Well, there you have it. Geez Louise, a lot of ground covered. I do want to give you the final word. So is there any advice you would give the listeners? I don't know, maybe it's one bullet. If this is the thing that goes on the Jumbotron at the Super Bowl to beauty and wellness professionals looking to add a body contouring device, what bullet or what one sentence would you give them as advice so they can avoid making a very idiotic investment decision?
I would say to ask for clinical studies. But there's one word of caution with that, though, is that you have to make sure the clinical studies is based on the device. It's device specific, because a lot of companies, and this has happened so many times, I've called so many people out on this, is that they'll give me a cryolipolysis study that is done with something else. But hey, look, it works. The fat cells die. I know that. I want to know that the ones on yours work, So and you're going to have resistance, but that's very, very important over anything else. You just really have to understand the device.
Got it. Well, Mina, where can the audience connect with you if they want to jump into your orbit?
Well, I am on Instagram, and I have multiple accounts because of multiple companies, but they could go on VivreSKIN Labs, not .com, just VivreSKIN Labs. Then they can DM me there.
Cool. I will link that in the description below, so you all have access to VivreSKIN Labs. And Mina, wow, I appreciate you making the time today, and this has been a lot of fun. So thanks again for doing this.
Thank you. I had so much fun. Thanks for having me back.
It was amazing. Yeah, we'll have you on again, I'm sure, at some point soon.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.